What happens when a millionaire owner puts on a fake mustache and sells sodas from a cart, just to catch something his managers won't tell him? Isaiah Randle stood in front of his bathroom mirror, adjusting the thick-rimmed glasses and gray-streaked wig. It wasn't his usual look, but today wasn't a usual day. He took a breath. "All right," he muttered. "Let's see what's really going on." He had inherited the convenience snack chain from his father 10 years ago. 8 locations across the city, all doing decent business, or so the report said. But lately, something felt off. One store's numbers didn't add up. The downtown location, Store 4, reported strong foot traffic, but profits were dipping every month. He'd asked questions, gotten polished answers. Too polished. Isaiah had never met the staff at Store 4. His father had always kept a distance from the ground-level employees, and Isaiah, trying to honor his dad's model, had done the same. Until now. He stepped out of his car 3 blocks from the shop, wearing a brown apron, a name tag that read Eli, and a cart full of pre-packed snacks, sodas, and bottled water. The cart was a new addition, a grab-and-go setup they'd installed to speed up checkout during lunch rush. Isaiah pushed it toward the sidewalk outside Store 4. No one batted an eye. It was a corporate chain. People assumed he was another new hire. That was the point. Inside the store, customers came and went. The cart sat just outside the entrance, and Isaiah greeted people with a smile. "Chips and soda? $2. A young woman with a backpack stopped. "Thanks, this is cheaper than inside." Isaiah raised an eyebrow. "Really?"
"Yeah."
"Inside they charge like $3.50 for soda alone." "Was that right?" He watched as a tall man in a black polo, clearly a manager, stepped out, glanced at him, and said, "You the new cart guy?" "Yeah," Isaiah nodded, keeping his voice a bit raspier than usual. "Started today." The man didn't introduce himself. He just said, "Stay out here. Don't come inside unless you gotta restock."
"Got it."
Isaiah nodded again. The day passed slowly. He sold snacks, watched customers, watched employees, and something didn't feel right. The assistant manager, a short woman named Bree, was polite. She brought him water, asked if he needed a break. The cashier, a young guy named Darnell, looked exhausted but kept smiling at customers. Isaiah made mental notes, watching, listening. Then, near the end of his shift, something happened. The manager, the tall guy, name tag said Craig, stepped behind the main register. Isaiah couldn't hear much from outside, but he noticed Craig telling the cashier to go take your break. Darnell walked to the back. Isaiah kept watching. Through the glass window, he saw Craig pop open the register drawer. He pulled out some bills, looked around, and slipped them into his pocket. Isaiah blinked. Did that really just happen? He watched as Craig closed the drawer, casually turned to help a customer, and pretended like nothing happened. Isaiah's jaw clenched. He took a breath. He wasn't ready to confront him. Not yet. He needed to be sure. He needed more. The next morning, Isaiah returned earlier.
He wanted to be inside this time.
He spoke to Bree as she opened store. "Mind if I help with setup today?" She smiled.
"Sure."
"You're the first cart guy who actually asked." Inside, he stocked shelves, wiped counters, stayed out of the way. He saw how the store ran. Bree took care of everything. Craig showed up an hour late, didn't greet anyone, and barely looked at the customers. Isaiah made a quiet note of it. Around noon, Isaiah stood near the cart again when he spotted something odd. An older man, maybe in his 60s, tried to pay for a bottle of water with coins. The cashier looked unsure, but Craig stepped in. "Sir, we don't take change like that. You're holding up the line." The man looked embarrassed. "It's all I got." Craig snatched the water bottle from the man's hand. "Then you don't got enough. Move." Isaiah's blood boiled. He walked over to the man and handed him a free water from the cart. "On me." Craig didn't say a word, just glared. That evening, Isaiah sat in his car, staring through the windshield. He rubbed his temples. He had seen enough. The next day, he came back early with a plan. The next morning, Isaiah parked in the alley behind Store 4 and waited until the back door was unlocked. He entered quietly, still in his disguise, and started stocking the cooler without being asked. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and the hum of the HVAC unit filled the silence. Bree looked up from the clipboard at the counter. "You're early," she said. "Didn't think they had you starting till 10. "I asked to come in sooner," Isaiah replied. "Figured I could help with morning prep." Bree gave a nod. "We could use it. I was about to bag ice and restock the drink fridge. You want that?"
Sure.
Isaiah rolled up his sleeves and got to work. He noticed her moving quickly through tasks, checking expiration dates, reprinting shelf labels, and setting up the coffee station, all without help. She was efficient, but she looked like someone who'd been doing too much for too long. "Do you always open solo?" he asked. "Almost always," she answered without looking up. "Craig doesn't usually show until after the first rush." "Is that by design?" She hesitated. "Depends who you ask." He didn't press.
Not yet.
By the time Craig arrived, the store was already full. Commuters grabbed coffee, sandwiches, and energy drinks. Isaiah stayed close to the front today, watching how the register was handled. Craig made a beeline for the back instead of helping. Not once did he greet a customer. Bree ran the register. The line spilled past the candy racks, and no one stepped in to assist her. Isaiah moved toward the snack cart outside, but before he got there, Bree called out,
"Hey, Ellie.
"Could you grab a box of lids from the back room?" "Top shelf, red box." He nodded and moved quickly. Inside the storeroom, he noticed how disorganized it was. Empty boxes were strewn across the floor, some open, some flattened. The shelves were half-stocked, with items mixed together without labels. He found the red box and carried it out. She took it with a grateful look. "Thanks. That saves me a trip." Isaiah returned outside, but he kept looking through the window. Craig eventually emerged and stood near the coffee machine, scrolling on his phone. Customers passed him, without acknowledgement. Late in the afternoon, Isaiah saw a delivery truck pull up. The driver rolled out a dolly stacked with boxes of chips and bottled drinks. Bree signed the invoice and began unloading. Craig was nowhere in sight. Isaiah stepped forward. "I can help move these inside." Bree handed him a box. "Careful with that one glass." They worked quickly. Isaiah rolled a second dolly to the back room when he spotted something odd. One of the shelves behind the door had a small metal lockbox. It didn't belong to the store's standard inventory setup. He crouched to get a closer look. A voice barked behind him. "What are you doing back here?" Craig stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "Just dropping off the new boxes," Isaiah replied, setting the dolly down. Craig stepped forward. "Don't mess with anything that isn't yours. This backroom's off limits unless you're told otherwise." Isaiah didn't respond. He didn't need to. Later, as the sun dipped behind the buildings, the store emptied out. Bree leaned against the counter, rubbing her wrists. Isaiah noticed her glancing at the clock. "You all right?" She gave a tired smile. "Just trying to stretch the last ounce of energy. I've got a second job tonight." "You work somewhere else too?"
Yeah.
"Late shift at the shelter on 12th. I don't really have a choice." Isaiah leaned on the counter, lowering his voice. "Can I ask something?" "Off the record?" She raised an eyebrow. "Why haven't you said anything about how this place runs?" "About Craig?" Bree looked down. "Because I need this job. I've seen what happens to people who speak up. Hours get cut. Schedules get changed last minute. Suddenly you're not needed anymore."
His jaw tightened.
"That happened to someone here?" She nodded. "We had another assistant manager, Miguel.
Good guy.
Worked hard. He called out Craig once for not logging inventory correctly. A week later, Miguel was reassigned to a location across town with no warning. Then his shifts were cut. He left within a month." Isaiah stood silently for a moment, then said, "Thanks for telling me. Before Bree could respond, a loud crash echoed from the front. A display rack had toppled over. Craig stood nearby, glaring at a teenager in a hoodie who had been browsing the candy aisle. "What did I tell you about leaning on displays?" Craig snapped. "I didn't touch it," the teen muttered. "Yeah? Then how'd it fall?" The boy looked nervous. "Maybe it wasn't balanced right." Craig stepped forward, too close. "Don't get smart with me." Isaiah stepped in.
Hey.
"Let's not do that." Craig turned. "Stay out of this." Isaiah didn't flinch. "He's a customer. You don't talk to people like that." "He's loitering." He was looking at candy. Craig's nostrils flared. "You're a cart guy. You don't get to tell me how to run the store." Isaiah locked eyes with him. "Then maybe someone should." The teenager backed away and left. Craig turned and stormed into the office. Bree leaned over. "That kid comes in a couple times a week. Always buys something. Craig just doesn't like how he looks." Isaiah felt his stomach turn. That night, he didn't go home. He drove to the regional office and pulled the security footage from the past 3 days. He watched every minute Craig was on shift. There was no ambiguity. Twice more, Craig had pulled bills from the register and pocketed them. On one occasion, he rang up a purchase for $5, took a 10 from the customer, gave back the correct change, then quietly slipped the 5 into his back pocket. Isaiah didn't sleep that night. He returned to the store before sunrise. Bree was already unlocking the doors. He approached her. "Is Craig scheduled today?" She nodded. "He usually comes in around 11. Isaiah pulled something from his pocket. A lanyard with his real ID badge. His photo. His name. "You might want to take a break around then." She stared at it. "Wait. What?"
I'm Isaiah Randle.
"I own this company." She didn't speak for a moment. He continued. "I've been undercover for 3 days. I've seen enough." "You saw the register?" "I did. I also saw how much you do to keep this place standing." Bree exhaled slowly. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. Just be here at 11. Isaiah stepped behind the counter and waited. At 11:13, Craig walked in with sunglasses on and a coffee in hand. He stopped cold when he saw Isaiah behind the register. "Who's this?" Isaiah pulled off the glasses and wig. "Your boss." Craig's face drained of color. Isaiah didn't waste a second. "You're done here. I've already contacted HR. You've been recorded stealing from the drawer 3 separate times. That's felony theft. I've also seen you harass customers based on how they look and ignore your team while they carry this store." Craig opened his mouth, but Isaiah cut him off. "You don't get to explain. You get to leave." Craig turned to Bree, who was standing silently near the coffee station. She didn't say a word. He walked out without looking back. Isaiah turned to Bree. "You're the new store manager. Effective immediately. Full salary, benefits, and a team. You won't be alone anymore." She blinked. "Are you serious?" "You earned it." He turned and started drafting a list of changes. New staffing policies. Better training. More oversight. But most importantly, he made a note to never let anyone operate unchecked again. Isaiah stepped into the back office, now empty of Craig's presence, and closed the door behind him. The room smelled faintly of old paper and burnt coffee. He sat at the metal desk and opened the bottom drawer. Inside, the same lockbox he'd seen before was now missing. He opened the file cabinet, instead rows of outdated invoices and delivery slips, none of them organized. A clipboard rested on top with a log for shift changes. Craig's handwriting was barely legible, entries filled with vague notes, and entire days skipped. Isaiah reached for the landline and dialed the regional HR contact. He kept his tone professional but firm, requesting a forensic audit of the store's point-of-sale system for the past 3 months and access to Craig's internal communication logs. It wasn't just about theft anymore. He needed to know how long this had been allowed to fester. Outside, Bree was running the store like she had every day before, but this time there was something different. Her posture was straighter. Her voice carried more certainty as she gave instructions to the cashier. Isaiah watched from the office window for a while before stepping back into the store. "Do you have keys to the office?" he asked her.
No, she said.
"Craig never gave me access. Said it was manager level only." Isaiah handed her a new key ring. "Now it is." She held the keys for a second, then tucked them into her apron. "So, what happens next?"
"We stabilize," he said.
"And then we rebuild." That afternoon, Isaiah stayed in the store, not as a figurehead, but as part of the team. He didn't announce who he was to customers. He swept up crumbs near the beverage station. He helped restock candy aisles. He asked the cashier, Darnell, how long he'd been working there. "Almost a year," Darnell said while organizing the coin tray. "I started after I graduated. Still figuring things out." Isaiah nodded. "You looking to move up?" "If it's possible," Darnell said. "I've asked a few times." Craig said I wasn't ready, but he never explained what that meant. Isaiah didn't respond immediately. He watched Darnell handle a difficult customer with calm precision. No hesitation, no frustration, just professionalism. "Come by the office at the end of your shift," Isaiah said. "We'll talk." 2 hours later, Isaiah sat with Darnell, reviewing his personnel file. It was thin. No disciplinary marks, no formal reviews, no development plan. Just a photocopy of his application and a few handwritten schedule changes. "You ever get trained on inventory systems?" Isaiah asked.
No.
"I asked about it once. Craig said it wasn't my concern." "You comfortable learning?" Darnell nodded. "Absolutely." Isaiah leaned forward. "We'll get you into assistant manager training. You've got the right instincts. I don't care about degrees or who's loudest. I care about who shows up and does the work." Darnell didn't hide the surprise. "Thank you." "This isn't charity," Isaiah said. "It's overdue recognition." He left the office and found Bree arranging a new end cap display. It was already drawing interest from customers. "You put this together?" he asked.
Yeah.
"I noticed we had too many clearance items piling up in the back. Figured I could move them faster if they were bundled." Isaiah looked at the price tags. "You plan to keep doing this?" "If you're okay with it." "I'm more than okay with it. I want you to have budget authority over in-store promos." She raised her eyebrows. "That's usually corporate level. This store needs to be an example of what happens when we trust good people. You've earned more than a title, you've earned autonomy." She didn't say anything, but he saw her grip tighten slightly on the pricing gun. Later that evening, as the foot traffic slowed to a trickle, Isaiah walked the perimeter of the store. Trash had been picked up. Shelves were neat. The energy felt different. But progress didn't mean the work was done. He called the district facilities manager and asked how often maintenance logs were reviewed. The answer, once a quarter, was unacceptable. He ordered a full inspection of Store 4's HVAC, refrigeration, and security systems within the week. He also made a note to audit every other location's managerial conduct. If Craig could operate this way without notice, it meant the oversight structure was flawed. That night, after closing, Isaiah gathered Bree, Darnell, and the 2 part-time clerks near the coffee station. "I'm not going to pretend I've been present," he said. "I let a system run without questioning the people I put in charge of it. That ends now."
No one said anything.
He continued. "Starting tomorrow, we're adding one more shift to each day. Corporate will cover the cost until staffing catches up. You're not machines. You're people. And people don't run on fumes." The older of the 2 clerks, a woman named Letitia, asked, "You really think they'll let you do that?" "I own the company," Isaiah said. "If they don't like it, they can try saying that in front of a camera." Letitia laughed, the first time he'd heard her voice all day. Over the next 3 days, Isaiah stayed embedded. He didn't sit in the office. He worked the floor during rushes, stocked shelves during lulls, and spent evenings reviewing every inch of the store's operations from vendor relationships to waste disposal protocols. He learned that the snack cart outside had never been inventoried properly. Products went missing regularly, and no one was held accountable. That stopped immediately. He installed a rolling scanner and barcode tracking system connected to the main POS. He also implemented a new staff feedback system, a private, secure way for employees to submit concerns directly to him, anonymously if needed. Each store would have a bi-weekly check-in, not with a manager, but with someone from his executive team. On the fourth morning, Isaiah returned to the store in plain clothes.
No disguise. No cart.
Just himself. He walked in and saw Bree already at the register, training a new hire. The walls felt brighter not because the lighting changed, but because the tension was gone. He waited until the line cleared and approached the counter. "Looks like you don't need me here anymore," he said. Bree smiled. "That's the goal, right?" He nodded. "I'll still be checking in." Quietly. "That's fine," she said. "Just don't make us guess who you are next time." As Isaiah turned to leave, he passed Darnell near the back cooler. The younger man was explaining the inventory scanner to the new part-timer, speaking with a confidence Isaiah hadn't seen the week before. He stepped outside and looked back through the glass. Customers were being greeted. Displays were tidy. The cart was restocked and manned by someone who actually wanted to be there. The store no longer felt like a place people endured. It felt like a place they belonged. Isaiah pulled out his phone and opened a blank note. Next location, Store 6. Report said it was doing fine. So, did Store 4. 2 weeks after Craig's termination, Store 4 was steady, but Isaiah Randle knew better than to assume momentum meant stability. He returned quietly on a Monday morning, not undercover this time, but without announcement. No suit, no assistant, no press. Just a clipboard and an unmarked baseball cap, pulled low. He parked across the street and watched the storefront through the windshield. A delivery truck was unloading on schedule. A new employee he hadn't seen her before was helping guide the dolly inside. That alone told him something had changed. Inside, the atmosphere was different. Not louder, not busier, just more focused. The music was lower. Employees moved with pace, but not panic. Bree stood at the counter with a headset, coordinating transactions while giving quiet instructions to the trainee beside her. Isaiah stepped in and was greeted by Letitia, who was restocking gum near the entrance. "Morning," she said, without looking up.
Morning, he replied.
"Everything running smooth?" "Few hiccups," she said, pointing to a half-empty shelf. "Vendors shorted us again on protein bars." Isaiah made a note. "Same supplier?"
"Yeah."
"Third time now." He headed to the back office. The door was open, and Darnell sat at the desk, reviewing the new scheduling software Isaiah's team had installed. His posture was straighter, but more than that, he looked like someone who knew his input mattered. "You get the hang of it?" Isaiah asked, stepping in. Darnell nodded. "Mostly. Still learning how to balance hours without overloading the part-timers. We're still down one person on weekends. Working on that. But you're on the right track." Darnell closed the laptop. "You here to check on us?" "Here to listen." Darnell hesitated. "There's one thing. We're getting flagged by corporate for having too many breaks logged. But the breaks are legit. I'm following the new schedule you approved." "Who flagged it?" "Someone from admin automated email. No name." Isaiah's jaw tightened. "Forward it to me. I'll handle it." He left the office and walked the floor. The snack cart outside was gone, not eliminated, but moved inside during lunch hours to improve security and reduce shrinkage. Isaiah watched as a customer approached the new cart station, now manned by the trainee he'd seen earlier. $2 even, she said, punching it in. The customer paid and left. The trainee glanced toward Bree for confirmation, and Bree gave a single nod before turning back to the register. It was quiet, respectful leadership, exactly what this store had lacked. Isaiah approached her after the lunch rush slowed. You've trained 3 people in 2 weeks, he said. That right? 4, actually. One didn't make it past day 3. Wasn't showing up on time. You let them go? I told them we needed reliability. They walked. Isaiah gave a short nod. That's the job. Bree leaned against the edge of the counter, arms crossed. We're getting there. But I have one concern. Let's hear it. The other locations. If Craig was doing that here, I'm worried about what we haven't seen in stores further out. Especially 6 and 7. I've worked shifts there before years ago. They were already messy back then. Isaiah looked at her for a long moment. I've got a plan for that. She raised an eyebrow. You going undercover again? No, he said. This time, I'm sending people who know what it looks like when something's wrong. Not auditors. Operators. Bree narrowed her eyes slightly. People like me? Exactly like you. She didn't respond right away. You've never asked for anything, Isaiah continued. Not a raise, not a title. But I'm offering both. I want you on the oversight team. Part-time to start. You'd still manage the store, but you'd also help evaluate others. I'd need training. You'll have it. And coverage when I'm not here. You'll get that too. She looked at the register, then at the floor. I never thought this job would turn into anything more than a paycheck. It always should have been more than that, Isaiah said. We just stopped seeing people. She nodded once. Later that week, Isaiah returned to headquarters. He sat with his executive team in the conference room overlooking the city skyline, a room he'd avoided for most of the past month. We're restructuring oversight, he said. Effective immediately. No more location reports filtered twice before they reach this table. We're assigning internal operators people who've actually worked the floor to rotate through stores and report directly to me. One of the VPs leaned forward. That's a major shift. There's going to be pushback from some district managers. Then they can choose whether they're part of the solution or not. Another executive asked, what about the theft issue? Do we press charges on Craig? Already filed, Isaiah said. We're not in the business of silent exits. There's a line, and he crossed it. After the meeting, he walked alone through the 10th floor, where the administrative staff handled payroll, scheduling, and benefits. He stopped by the desk of the team member responsible for compliance alerts. You flagged Store 4's breaks as excessive? The woman glanced up from her monitor.
Yes.
The system auto-generates alerts when break time exceeds department averages. Don't do that again without context, Isaiah said. Those averages were built under a flawed model. We fix the model, not punish the exceptions. She nodded quietly. That weekend, Isaiah returned to Store 4. He didn't announce himself. He didn't ask for reports. He just watched. Letitia was training a new clerk on register functions. Darnell was adjusting shelf tags based on the new pricing strategy. Bree was in the office, reviewing vendor quotes for a new beverage line she wanted to pilot. He stepped outside for a moment and leaned against the brick wall. The city buzzed around him, cars, buses, a saxophone player across the street. But inside that store, something had changed permanently. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't fixed. But it was honest. When Isaiah finally walked back in, no one flinched. No one paused. They just kept working. Not because he was watching, but because it mattered now. He caught Bree as she came out of the office. If you had one thing to tell me to do next, he asked, what would it be? She didn't hesitate. Send people to listen, not just look. He nodded slowly. Consider it done. And this time, he meant it.